Do predators bleed? Well, as mighty as these Yautja warriors may be, they're not invulnerable, and the warriors can bleed if you strike them just right. Today, we'll be diving deep into what makes their blood so uniquely green and glowing, explore the actual science behind it, and look at how we've seen this incredible biology showcase itself in the movies, especially in the recently released Predator Badlands, where we get some seriously up-close and personal looks at predator blood and the horrific injuries these warriors sustain. Anyways, before we get too deep into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The visual signature. Why green over any other color? Back in 1987, when they were making the original Predator film, they actually envisioned the creature's blood being orange. This would have contrasted beautifully against the dense green jungle of the film's setting in Central America. It would have been visually stunning and probably would have been an iconic image in the franchise, but the production team discovered that creating orange blood in the quantities that they needed was extremely difficult and expensive. They needed to figure out a quick, affordable alternative that could be applied repeatedly throughout filming without constantly losing the visual effect. So what did they do? They grabbed the liquid from inside glow sticks, the kind that military and emergency personnel use. These contained fluorescent chemicals that naturally emitted a bright, eerie green glow. To get the right viscosity and consistency that would look like blood rather than water, they mixed this glowing liquid with KY jelly lubricant. And that's how Predator blood became green. The practical effects team had to keep recreating this mixture on set because the glow from the liquid would fade relatively quickly after being exposed to air. According to behind-the-scenes accounts, the actor playing the original Predator, Kevin Peter Hall, actually had to keep the glowing mixture in his mouth and spit it out during takes to create those iconic scenes where you see the green blood hit the ground or spray across surfaces. This blend of practical effects remained the standard for the first two Predator films. In later sequels and modern films like Prey and Predator Badlands, the filmmakers transitioned to CGI-created green blood, which gave them way more flexibility in how they could display injuries and blood splatters. But the core visual element remained the same, that unmistakable neon green that immediately tells you something dangerous or extraterrestrial just got hurt. The in-universe explanation. What's actually making it green? Now, from a purely fictional standpoint, filmmakers needed to justify why Predator blood glowed green and behaved so differently from human blood. The answer lies in understanding what gives blood its color in the first place. In Earth biology, the color of blood comes from chromoproteins. These are complex molecules that contain specific elements and compounds that determine coloration. In human blood, we have hemoglobin, which contains iron. That iron is what gives our blood its distinctive red color when it binds to oxygen. But predators evolved on their homeworld, Yautja Prime, in completely different environmental conditions with potentially different atmospheric compositions. So naturally, they wouldn't have hemoglobin with iron giving their blood a red hue. The Yautja blood instead contains different chromoproteins entirely, ones that likely contain different elements altogether. The most frequent suggested explanation within fan theories and the extended lore is that their blood might contain sulfur-based compounds. There's actually a real-life medical condition on Earth called sulfhemoglobinemia, where excess sulfur accumulates in the blood and it creates a greenish pigment that's basically a sulfur derivative of hemoglobin. That could absolutely be what's happening with predator blood. Their entire oxygen-carrying biology might be built on a sulfur-based system instead of an iron-based one. This isn't completely out of the realm of possibility either. In our oceans right here on Earth, certain marine worms have green blood because their chromoproteins, while similar to hemoglobin, have a weaker affinity for oxygen. This difference in oxygen binding makes their blood appear green in diluted solutions, though it turns a lighter red in highly concentrated solutions. The predators could operate on a similar principle but taken to an extreme. A biology so fundamentally different from our own that it's not just a different shade of red, it's an entirely different color spectrum. The bioluminescence, that eerie glow. The green color alone wouldn't be distinctive enough. The real game changer with predator blood is that it glows. It's bioluminescent, meaning that blood actually produces its own light through chemical reactions. This is something we see in nature through creatures like fireflies, certain jellyfish, and bioluminescent fungi. The way bioluminescence works is that you need specific compounds, typically luciferin and luciferase, that react to oxygen to produce light energy in the form of photons. The most compelling scientific explanation suggests that predator blood contains luciferin and a similar enzyme called luciferase. When their blood is exposed to Earth's atmosphere, or really any oxygen-rich environment, these compounds react together, creating a chain reaction that produces light, and not just a dim glow either. We're talking about a bright, vivid green luminescence that's visible even in daylight scenes. This is radically different from any blood we know on Earth, but the principle is sound. It's pure chemistry happening on a biological level. The blood itself is serving as its own light source because of the molecular structure these creatures evolved. The evolutionary paradox, a weakness disguised as strength. This glowing green blood is simultaneously one of the predator's greatest biological features and their biggest vulnerability. Think about it. When a predator is cloaked and invisible to thermal imaging, humans can't see them coming. They're effectively ghosts on the battlefield. But the moment they bleed, it's game over. That glowing green light instantly gives away their position, their approximate size based on the amount of blood, and it even reveals their movements as the blood trail shows where they're headed. The original 1987 Predator film even plays on this concept directly. Dutch Schaefer figures out that they can track the predator by making it bleed, and the entire final act becomes a hunt where the hunters become the hunted. The predator's own blood becomes the instrument of its defeat. The same thing happens in Prey. Naru realizes that the predator is no longer invisible once it bleeds, and she uses this knowledge to help her survive encounters with the creature. It's this fascinating evolutionary paradox where something that's biologically advantageous in some contexts becomes a massive disadvantage in others. There's actually a very compelling theory in extended predator lore that suggests the Yautja species underwent an evolutionary journey where they were once prey themselves. According to some interpretations, they eventually evolved into apex predators and hunters of other species, but they might have retained this glowing blood as a kind of evolutionary scar, a leftover from a time when being visible meant something different in their ecology. Predator blood versus xenomorph blood, the cosmic chemistry showdown. One thing that makes predator blood particularly interesting is how it compares to the acidic blood of the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. Xenomorph blood is essentially a molecular acid. It can eat through human flesh, bone, and even military-grade materials. It's a devastating defensive mechanism that makes the creature a threat even in death. Predators, meanwhile, don't have acidic blood. Their blood is warm, and according to extended lore, it's supposedly non-toxic to humans. Some sources even suggest it has a sweet smell and taste, which is kind of weird to think about. But here's the fascinating part. There's evidence in the AVP films that predator blood can partially neutralize xenomorph acid. This suggests that their blood contains compounds that give them a degree of protection against the corrosive properties of xenomorph blood. It's like an evolutionary adaptation specifically designed to help them hunt xenomorphs. This hints at a long history of conflict between these two species that goes way back in Yautja history, suggesting they've been hunting xenomorphs for possibly centuries. The Predator Badlands Connection, Dek and Quay's Bloody Legacy. Now, if you've watched Predator Badlands, you know we get some incredibly intense and visceral scenes involving predator blood. This movie, more than any other in the franchise, really dives into the physical brutality of Yautja combat and shows us their blood in some genuinely shocking ways. Let me take you through what we see. The film opens with a combat trial between two brothers, Dek the younger and weaker sibling, and Quay, his older and more accomplished brother. During this brutal training match, we see blood spill from both warriors as they fight, but the real tragedy comes with the intervention of their father, Njor. Njor is the clan leader, and when Quay refuses to kill his younger brother as ordered, all hell breaks loose. Njor turns his own weapons on Quay, and what follows is an absolutely devastating combat sequence. Quay takes massive damage during the fight. He loses his arm to one of Njor's attacks, a brutal plasma blast that severs the limb clean off. We see the green luminescent blood pouring from Quay's wounds as he desperately tries to activate the ship's controls to send Dek to safety. Even after his arm is gone, even after all the injuries Njor inflicts on him, Quay continues fighting, not for himself but to save his brother. His final act of defiance cost him his life, but his glowing blood, quite literally, is the marker of his sacrifice. That bright green light mixing with his injuries tells the entire story of his suffering without needing dialogue. Dek's journey, survival and blood. Later in the film, after Dek is exiled to the planet Genna to hunt the Kalisk, we see him sustain multiple injuries throughout his mission. Each time he gets hurt, from encounters with the hostile environment, from battles with other creatures to struggles with the environment itself, that same glowing green blood marks his wounds. What's fascinating about how Badlands portrays this is that we see Dek's blood as a sign of his growing strength, not weakness. Every injury he survives, every battle scar he earns through the blood he sheds on Genna becomes part of his transformation from a rejected runt into a genuine warrior. The healing factor, why predators can survive. Something interesting about predator biology is that they seem to have a much higher tolerance for blood loss than humans do. If a human loses a limb, they need immediate medical intervention or they'll die from blood loss within minutes. But predators can lose a limb and keep functioning. This suggests their circulatory system is fundamentally different from ours. They might have smaller, more dispersed blood vessels rather than major arteries that can cause catastrophic bleeding. Some extended lore even suggests that their veins might be partially self-closing, meaning when they're injured, the wound seals more efficiently than human wounds would. Additionally, there are theories within extended universe media that suggest their blood might have unique healing properties. Some interpretations propose that predator blood could potentially accelerate wound healing in ways that human blood cannot. The Yautja might have evolved this ability as part of their hunter biology, the ability to sustain injuries, keep fighting, and heal rapidly so they could push through multi-day hunts across hostile environments. Marvelous verdict! Why this minor detail matters. Predator blood is a complete representation of the Yautja evolutionary journey. It tells us they came from a different world with a different atmospheric composition than Earth. It shows us they've adapted to survive encounters with acidic blood creatures like Xenomorphs, and it reveals vulnerabilities in their cloaking technology that their own biology creates. And in films like Predator Badlands, it becomes a visual language for telling stories of sacrifice, survival, and the physical toll of their hunting rituals. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of this topic and share your favorite moments from Predator Badlands.